Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm talking about data governance. It isn't quite what you think it is. And here's my story to help explain what I mean. So, it's the run up to Christmas when I'm recording this. And a few weeks back, I decided with my wife that we wanted to buy our eldest son a new bike. So I ordered a bike from a well-known retailer, and when it arrived, I realized that it was probably the size too small, and really we should have got the size up. So I wanted to return it back to the retailer and get the right size. Now they didn't have the right size, so I needed to buy it somewhere else, but I'd still needed to send the bike back. So I went online and I searched around for a logistics company, landed on Hermes. They asked for all of the dimensions of the parcel I was sending back. It was quite a big box it came in, the weight and everything about it. They accepted the order. Someone came to pick it up, but the car they arrived in was way too small for the product. It could fit in a small box, not a big product like a sort of a child's bike. So somewhere there was a failure between the me adding the dimensions of the bike and the product and the parcel I was sending back, and the allocation of the pickup driver who eventually came to arrive at my house to pick up the product. That's a cost to them and an impact on my customer experience. It wasn't great. They should never have, if they weren't going to use the information I gave them, then why did they? And so on. Anyway, so they then suggested I use a different service, which for large parcels that Hermes suggests we use, it was a company called Interparcel. So I placed the order with Interparcel and I added extended cover as the item was expensive. I wanted to make sure I had the necessary assurance and insurance in place, so if anything would happen that I wouldn't be out of pocket. The following day, they contacted me and said, actually, I couldn't have that cover because the item I was sending was restricted and therefore it didn't meet the criteria for cover. But I'd already checked out, I'd already bought that cover. They could have easily flagged that at the point of purchase, but it didn't. Anyway, the delivery driver came. They arrived from a company called Tufnells. This is the third company I've dealt with as part of this. And they arrived, they picked up the parcel. The driver handed me a handwritten collection note. And 2 days later, I thought I better check where it is, make sure it's got back to the retailer. So I clicked on the track and trace link that they'd sent me, and it said that there were no records attached to my delivery. So I called up Interparcel, confused, and they said they also had no record of the product being collected at all. And they had no scans by the delivery driver or any of the distribution centers for any of the places that parcel may have been. They had no information from Tufnells, and they needed to speak to them sort of on the phone to try and get an update. After a lot of phone calls and sort of fighting and backwards and forwards, 2 or 3 weeks, and finally Interparcel accepted that the product was lost, as Tufnells couldn't provide the product or an explanation of where the product might be. Another 2 or 3 weeks later after that, they finally accepted that it was their fault, and they would refund me the cost of the product and the service that I paid for. So stressful few weeks around it, but I eventually I'm ending up back at equal again. Now, I'm not going to suggest that all these issues are because of data, but let's look at it. There was no validation of data on the Hermes site when I initially made the purchase for the insurance. When I initially made the purchase for them to come and pick it up, they to make sure they didn't accept a booking that they couldn't fulfill. There was no passing over of data from the booking to the allocation of the driver. There was then no checking of the booking for the extended insurance that I mentioned to ensure I didn't buy something that I couldn't actually have. There was no data capture once the parcel was collected. There were no scans as it moved through the supply chain. So no data existed about where the parcel was. So everyone was sort of guessing. And there was no sharing of data between Tufnells and Interparcel business partners so that they could have a decent discussion, a decent understanding of what was happening between them so that they could then communicate with me better. The impact of this has been huge, depending on how much they put credence on my opinion. But brand damage for all parties involved, countless calls to call centers and investigations being carried out. That's wasted money on processes. It's misdirecting people's time. They have all three of those companies, Hermes, Interparcel, and Tufnells, have lost me as a customer because of the issue, and more importantly, the way they handled it. Now, this is in part about data management and governance. There are countless business problems in that story. They're caused by data issues, resulting in lost money, in lost time, in a lost customer, and in lost future revenue. all of which could have been helped by better data management and better data governance to ensure that the business operates smoothly and the relationship that they have between me ordering a collection and a delivery and then coming to get it back to the place I wanted to get it to, which should be standard practice for an organizations like that. Data management isn't a separate data thing that only the data professionals and maybe the IT team should worry, excuse me, and care about. This is Heartland strategic and operational business challenges and impact. When you search for data management or data governance on a search engine, you essentially get given articles by vendors, maybe with some thought leadership, which is good, but often pushing their tools that support data management, which we may need at some point in the process. It also shows frameworks and best practices, which again are good, but they're written really and tailored for data professionals and people who are in data and get data and understand the sort of data side of this challenge. I've been known to say that the first rule of data governance is not to talk about data governance. Now, this isn't to dismiss or reduce its importance. It's actually a statement that relates to the need to focus on the right things, particularly when talking to stakeholders, and that the right thing is your equivalent to my failed logistics story of trying to send back my child's bike. So that the accountability for data management and the data management strategy or the change required to implement around it may sit with a single person like the chief data officer or someone within their team. But given the nature of data, given the pervasiveness it has and the impact it has in the organization and the ability for it to make or break your business, essentially, it's absolutely necessary that the responsibilities are shared across an organization. And more importantly, for everyone to understand the impact that bad data, inadequate data management, poor data governance is having on the business performance and where it could continue to hurt you going forward. And there's hundreds of other examples of poor data impacting the business. Think about products incorrectly labeled. Think about customers receiving different quantities of something versus what they ordered, reissuing of invoices because customer details or purchase order numbers are incorrect, stock showing as available on your website when actually there's no stock left in the warehouse at all, employees not getting paid because salary information hasn't been updated. And there's so many other examples, maybe small examples, but that actually are caused by data issues, caused by the processes that create data, and caused by a lack of strategy and governance and control over how you get a handle on your data. So we need to flip the conversation about data management and data governance from a set of capabilities we need for some unquantifiable benefit to one that's about real strategic and operational impact data can have on the organization. And we want to tie that to the opportunity that exists in investing in an improved capability around the way that the organization handles and manages its data. This is essentially a business challenge, and it needs to be treated that way. So I hope this has helped you to think about data governance and data management in a different way. It's really not what a lot of people think it is. It is heartland business stuff. And I hope this has been useful. Catch you again soon.